frontier. This is Football Daft with Stephen Purden,
midfield dynamo and average actor,
Chris Toll,
target man, suspicious character,
and
with the top end of Stevenson, Grado!
Welcome to Football Daft, the daftest Scottish football podcast around. My name's Stephen Purden, aka Shellsuit Bob, and let's welcome your starting lineup. First, let's welcome a man who went to Forbes this week to buy a suit for a wedding he's not going to.
Right, it was a bit of a redneck because obviously I did wrestling daft with Rob Florence, and you know, at the start of the year he says keep this date free, that's where I'm getting married. I was like, tidy man, that'll be a good wedding to go to. Well, obviously the COVID thing happened and stuff like that, and you know, he got kind of quiet about it. But then he said, look, I'm gonna have my wedding, it's in my back door. And I thought, well, I'll never be invited to that. I'm not that close. I mean, we're close kind of thing, but I'm no, you know, for the amount of folk he's going to have in his backyard. And anyway,
don't let me and you.
Aye, it's not like me and you. And to an extent, Toll, no John.
To an extent, away you go. I wouldn't let you in my back door, you fucking arsehole.
So anyway, at the start of the week, because he's not mentioned about me getting invited to his back door, at the start of the week he sent me an invitation to his wedding, right? And I thought, tidy. I was like, I get in there, but I'm like, I better get something to wear. I'm like, to Steph, and he goes, you better get a frock. You're invited to Rob Florence's wedding. She's like, who'll be there? I says, yeah, Greg Hempels, there'll be your still games, all that. She's like, oh, brilliant. So she's trying to look, she's looking at my frock and all that, and I'm kind of trying to get myself a suit because fucking nothing fits me. And I was driving to the radio the next day, and when I got in there, I says, look, I'll talk about how I'm invited to this wedding on Saturday. And just as I looked at the invitation, right, it was an invitation on WhatsApp, I looked at it back and I thought, yeah, fucking idiot. It says, you are invited to the live stream wedding of Rob Florence, right? And the best it is, I'm going to Rob when he sent me, I've not obviously looked at it, right? I'm going like that to Rob, brilliant, mate, see you Saturday, can't wait, going to be a cracking day. He's probably sitting there going, what the fuck? He's not invited. So I'll be all dulled up watching this live stream on Saturday.
I know he's your mate and all that, right? Are you going to watch it?
Nah.
Now, let's welcome a man who has owned a pub in nearly every street in Scotland and has a big brother story to tell us. We'll get to that later. It's Chris Toll.
All right, Crooks, what's happening?
Funny.
I can't help it. Listen, it just so happens that the two streets that were mentioned happen to have pubs that my dad owned on them. So
it's funny too, right? Because we did buy me up about that, right? Because obviously folk come on, they say a street, and somehow you've ended up, I owned a pub in that street, right? But you know, it's funny, I know, but I've noticed in this podcast, we obviously get Kevin Harper on the day, but that's another connection to Albion Rovers. It feels like every week you're like that. I don't know if you'll know this, but I grew up in Coatbridge, and I used to go to Albion Rovers games. It comes up every week, doesn't it?
Right, well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, we've already recorded the Kevin Harper interview, right? So Grado knows exactly what I say. So see when it comes to that bit later on in the show, and he'll go like that, whoa, ho, 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 and laugh like an arsehole and try and make me look like a dafty. We've already recorded that, so fuck you, Grado.
We'll try to rip the James Blunt out on there, but Grado.
What's that?
You were trying, you were doing it in a nice way, like that producer Ryan.
Well, folks, it's been great to see how she's been up. And also, Bob, what you been doing?
Boys, well, fuck, it was the opening day of the season.
It was the opening day of the season.
Football's back. But as we speak right now on Sky Sports News, this just in, an Aberdeen player has tested positive for coronavirus ahead of this week's game at St Johnstone. What do you make of that?
So
that's like a fucking that's a worm cans everywhere, man.
I think it is.
Worm open cans everywhere.
But see, the deal, mate, you're right. It's not even to do with football, but that's quite scary that, you know, obviously Aberdeen's been into lockdown, right, because so many folk have tested positive. But that is scary, innit, that it has affected an Aberdeen player. Freaky, man. But apart from that, but it was a good day for both sides at the weekend. I know we always get abuse for maybe talking about Rangers and Celtic, but we support Rangers and Celtic. Well, I support Rangers, no Celtic.
I support the two of them. No, I'm only joking. I know what you mean, Grado. Like we do get a wee bit of hassle, but not hassle, but we get a wee bit of kickback, don't we, for talking about Celtic and Rangers too much. But I think last weekend was a great weekend for Scottish football all in, just to get the teams back on the pitch. Obviously the fans can't be in the stadium yet, but that's not too far away, hopefully. And you know, it's a few teams put on a couple of good performances. But my standout, although Celtic obviously are top of the league, my standout for the weekend there is Ross County. I think that was a tremendous result against Motherwell for Ross County.
Mm-hmm.
So
they actually, I watched that game against Motherwell. They played well, man. The boy scored the penalties. What's his name? Stuart.
Russell Stewart or Roddy Stewart or something.
Billy Mackay or whatever up front ran, but Motherwell, they were poor, man. Polworth's a really good player. Turnbull didn't do much. You're looking at them going...
Hasty playing?
Remember what I said last week, man?
Hasty was terrible.
Really?
Hasty couldn't get past the left. He didn't get past the full-back. Had to get past him once. But then, I think he went off and Seedorf came on. And he changed the game a wee bit for Motherwell. He gave them a bit of injection, didn't he?
I don't know why. They done so well last season that it was always going to be hard to replicate that. But I think they could actually be down at the bottom end of the table this season.
I just think, I don't know, man. I just look at the midfield and go, they've got such a good midfield. They've got good football players in the middle of the park, man. I don't know, man. Everybody's
expecting Turnbull to be the player that he was before he got injured. It's going to take him a wee while to get back to that level, you know. And like you said, he didn't have much of an impact on that game on Monday night at all.
The midfield was non-existent. Ross County just wanted it there. They did. Mm-hmm. What about your team, mate? How'd you just got on, Celtic?
Watch it.
So I actually done the first Celtic Daft this week as well for the Patreon, but we get, obviously, you know yourselves, you gave Rangers Daft away for free this week and we gave Celtic Daft away for free. And I think like we spoke about that all through Celtic Daft, but what I will say is I thought there wasn't a player in the Celtic team that performed under par. But as I says to John on the show, we need to be mindful of the level of opposition. We'll definitely get it harder against Kilmarnock this week. But we'll be ourselves. I watched the Rangers game. I thought both teams were pretty poor. Rangers were the better of the two teams, to be honest with you. But for the goal, the goal was a great move, wasn't it?
Oh, it was superb, mate. I think we played really, really well in the first half. I actually was dead excited in the first half. I thought we were playing some cracking football. The second half, plenty of folk were saying it, you know, we've seen this movie before. Is it going to end up they're going to equalise last kick of the ball or this carry on? But need to remember, first game of the season, you know, we beat Aberdeen the first day of the season. It's a good result to take back to Glasgow.
That's one of your big hard games out the way already.
Mm-hmm. Aye, definitely.
Aberdeen at Pittodrie.
It always gives us a fear, man. There was like a stat that we've only won by more than one goal. Aberdeen like twice in the last 15 years or something like that. We've never been around for taking plenty of goals after them at Pittodrie. So getting a 1-0 victory will do me, and it was good to see the big centre half. He played really well. Hadji had a mare.
Everything Grado said, I'm agree with. Aye, that was good. Aye.
Absolutely.
But it was a good opening day of the season. God knows what's going to happen this weekend with the whole Aberdeen situation now. It could have a knock-on effect. Touch with it, doesn't it? We shall see.
And get well soon.
The Rangers flipped the tap off the biscuit tin this week, did they not?
Oh, good signings.
A lot of money going out of Ibrox this week. Kamal Roof, can't believe it. Fucking raging, man.
You like him, don't you?
I do like him as a player. I've liked him as a player since he was at Leeds. And
tell us about him for the.
See when he was leaving Leeds, Rangers were sniffing about him, and I was like, no chance. And when he signed for Anderlecht, I was quite relieved, to be honest with you, because he could have been a difference maker for you last season, right? I'll tell you that now. A lot of people are going to go, oh, he's had one good season, right? Kamal Roof is a fucking much better player than his stats show, right? Mm-hmm. I'll tell you that now. And he's going to be able to link the play between the midfield and the front so much. It's honestly, he's a better player than Hadji, right? I'll tell you that now. He's a better player than Hadji, and he'll get you a right few goals as well. He's dangerous up top. Never heard of the other guy, to be honest with you. But looking at his stats, that could be like going prior seasons to that. He could be on his good season, and then he's got his big move to Rangers. But what Rangers are looking at here is trying to replicate what Celtic do, bring in a young striker that's looking to make his name in Europe. And I think this one could work for them in the long run. You know, so that's a wee bit of experience in Roof and a wee bit of new blood coming in. So looking at it's only going to help Rangers this season, to be honest with you.
It's like we're obviously Morelos is going to go, and you're sitting there going, right, we need to get this. We need to get it replaced. Do you know what I mean? We need to get it, but we've signed the 2 players already, and he's still here. We've not sold Morelos yet. Do you know what I mean? So it's good, man. I'm happy with the business. So on the show today, we welcome a man who made his name at Hibs and has recently just stepped down as Albion Rovers manager. It's Kevin Harper. And after the Legends Lottery was delayed for a week, it's still Grado's turn on the Legends Lottery. You're sorted for that, big man?
Guys, I can confirm I do have a Legends Lottery. It's I've been in negotiations all week with this guy. It's a star signing. You're only going to believe it. It's a cracker, and I managed to do it all by myself. Isn't that right, John White?
Well done, Grado.
And on a big question,
Thanks,
everyone is getting on board our Fantasy Football League, which I'm going to need to make a few changes to now, on the Fantasy Football Scotland app. So looking for your best fantasy football or 5-a-side team names. But with all the transfer speculation kicking about, it's time to get back to a man who's well in the know. It's Chris Toll and his rumour mill.
What is happening? I'm back with a vengeance this week. I've got rumours coming out my ears.
Aye.
Honestly.
I love it.
So, first thing we're talking about is a young boy called Lucas Nemecha from Man City. He's a 21-year-old striker. He spent the second half of last season alone at Middlesbrough. And Celtic are looking to bring him in. Him, and they're also, we've got until Saturday to land a long-term target, Sebastian Anderson, as his release fee from Union Berlin expires. So Celtic want to get him in this summer for cheap. They need to sign him within the next few days, basically. Looks like we're going to have a bit of a chase on for Odsonne Edouard with Aston Villa, Arsenal, Leicester, Leeds, other teams being named. Former guest on this show, Ross McCrory, looks as if he could be off to Hibs. But yeah. Portsmouth are keen to take him back down for next season. Hibs are also interested in taking Greg Docherty back to Easter Road for another season. So, you think that's a good fit for Greg Docherty?
I think it is. I really do. And I hope he does get a move like that where he can get regular football. Because when he went to Easter Road, there's a lot of Hibs fans in my work. They're saying how well he played and stuff. And I think the boy needs to get regular football. He needs to be playing regularly. And it's not going to happen at Rangers. I just don't think. I think there's always these teams and players that just, I think, fit each other. And I think a team like Hibs just fits Greg Docherty and vice versa. I think, do you know what I mean? The player suits the club. So hopefully he gets the move and goes. Because he seems a good boy, man.
So Scotland international Ryan Fraser, he was at Bournemouth last season. Obviously they've been relegated. However, he's under freedom of contract now. Looks as if he might be on his way to Crystal Palace.
He's a cracking player.
He really is. He's a great player. He's another one that when he was up in Scotland, a lot of clubs never wanted to take a punt on him because he was so small. But obviously Aberdeen took a punt on him. He got the move down south. And
that big massive club.
Listen, somebody else it might be going off there by the sounds of what that fucking idiot on the radio said, Jamie O'Hara. Listen, I'm a Celtic supporter, right? And see if Jamie O'Hara, to quote a great man, if Jamie O'Hara has a dream that Bournemouth are bigger than Rangers, he better fucking wake up and apologise. You know what I'm saying?
Did you even see Rod Stewart phoned up?
Did he?
No?
Rod Stewart phoned Talk Sport.
Did he?
Aye, to say, Jamie, basically, you're talking shite, mate.
You're joking. I need to see that. I need to hear that.
Aye.
I've always said this, right? See how Celtic fans and Rangers fans, they oil and water at each other all the time. See the minute somebody from elsewhere has a pop at either of the two of them, they both go like, "Who the fucking mirror?" You know what I mean? It's as if, listen, we can fucking slag them, but don't you slag them.
Aye, that's true, man. It's like, yeah, by the way, that's my rival. I'll back him up. I can show you fucking...
You're talking about Bournemouth, boy. Hearts left back Aaron Hickey, 18 and 16-year-old Celtic winger Barry Hepburn and Jason Holt are set to join the Bundesliga champions Bayern Munich, according to reports in Germany. And actually, that's the last rumour on the rumour mill today this week, Trips.
What do you say Jason Holt to Bayern Munich?
Aye.
Jason Holt to Bayern Munich?
Aye, Jason Holt, aye. Freedom of contract going to Bayern Munich.
Oh.
He's away. They want a older Scottish guy there to have an arm around Barry Hepburn and Aaron Hickey.
Fuck off.
So Jason Holt's going down to Bayern. Wait, what are you laughing at?
Aye, it's a good move.
Anyway, remember, Trips, if you get any rumours that you want to get or you just want to get in touch with us, just get us on Twitter at Football Daft Pod, Football Daft Podcast on Instagram. Just search for Football Daft on Facebook.
The Legends Lottery on Football Daft.
Right, Trips, it's my time for the Legends Lottery this week. It's the time of the week where we get somebody for Scottish football that's a legend, that's played football, but now and again we get people that haven't played football. Ewan Cameron was a guest on it before. Yous are always ripping me because I'm murdered at getting somebody on, but this week I'm actually quite delighted with who I've got.
Well, hold on, Grado, hold on. We need to give Stephen his score for Greg Wild because we didn't get around to that last week.
Right, let's do that then.
So we asked people, obviously, to give a rating out of 5 for Greg Wild. Top of the leaderboard is Chris at the moment. We're cracking so for Brian McPhee, got 13.9. You're still bottom, Grado, 3.7. That'll change in a minute. And Greg Wild was on. Stephen currently sits on 11.9. Greg Wild was a decent guest, however, and he got a 3.7, which
that's good.
Stephen up to 15.6. So now it's time for...
We shall not be moved.
I'm bringing Brian McPhee back on next week.
I'm bringing him on next time, mate.
Anyway, guys, enough chatter.
Look at Grado. I don't give a fuck about all yous. I've got somebody this week.
I know, because I'm usually sitting here fucking going, well, I text somebody and I'll text me back.
Well, tell me this. Did John have anything to do with bringing this person in?
That was my idea. So... this man has been the voice of football in Scotland for years and is now one of the hosts on the brand new Go Radio football show. I did a breakfast show. He's my new colleague.
No way. I know who it is.
It's none other than Rob MacLean.
Fuck off, man.
Grado, it's yourself.
It's yourself, Rob. How's it going? I am absolutely buzzing to get you on the show, Rob. I met you last week for the first time in the Go Radio studio, and it's weird, man, because we've had people in, and I've been and no bad celebrities and stuff like that, but I was starstruck meeting you, Biggin.
Oh, way.
I swear to God, and you know the other thing I know? I can't believe. I think you look. I know you're a kind of silver fox, but I think you look a lot younger now than what you did back in the 90s.
Do I look younger than your dad?
You're the same age as my dad.
I know. I heard you saying that. Cheers, mate.
I didn't hear that. Do you know what? I get told off for that. They're going, stop mentioning his age. Every time we kept going back, I'd go, Rob MacLean, I'd go, I can't get the age of that guy.
The Go Radio football show with that old fucker on.
But it's
Rob, he had said it, but he's in the group chat every 2 minutes. All he's saying is, by the way, man, Rob MacLean's tidy looking.
Listen,
it's not just Grado either. His co-host thinks you're an absolute fox.
but yeah,
you're not so bad yourself, darling.
I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the bird for the radio, Rob. He's a break.
Is that a knockback?
Well, we can talk about it once we've stopped recording.
All right.
But here, do you know what? I need to get this story out the road right away, right? Because I've been laughing at it all morning, Rob. You were on the radio last night. You're on the football phone in. Who was it you were on with last night? Ali DeFoy, Charlie Mulgrew, Barry Ferguson. But you had a guest phone in.
Yes.
Right?
I think I know what's coming here.
Honestly, I've been peeing myself. Right?
It was an absolute belter because you know I've just got the screen in front of me with the calls coming in. You know, Lee from Kirkcaldy's on and all the rest of it. And so I'm away in another space, and it comes up. Rob's on the line now. So next caller, Rob, and there's a silence, and then he says, "Hi, it's Rob Douglas here. I'm one of your special guests." Oh my God!
But it was hilarious the way he was going like, next we've got Rob on the line. And Rob Douglas is like, hello, how you doing? And you're kind of giving it, you're on the football phone, man. He's going, aye. Mm-hmm,
what would you like?
What would you like to ask?
What's your point, caller?
What would you like to say? Well, I'm actually a football legend, and I'm a guest on your show.
No, but I'm going to need a words with Big Douglas. I've asked him to come on to our show about 15 times. And you're there a week and you've got him on.
I know he's doing nothing else. I don't think.
Big chancer.
Honestly, I was peeing myself. But how are you getting on at the Go Radio then? It's been launched last week.
Feels like we've done about 3 weeks, Grado, to be honest. But I mean, we've only done 4 shows, But no, it's good. It takes 2 hours of all talk. It takes a bit of finding, because you want plenty of guests, because you want it to be kind of busy. But so on a daily basis, it's we're trying to plan ahead a bit. But people sort of say, yeah, I'll do it, and then they call off and all that sort of stuff. So it's been good so far. And I mean, like Barry Ferguson and Charlie McGrew were really good last night, and Barry with Cy Ferry, I think, is really good as well.
Yeah.
It's all these sort of little combinations that are quite good.
Barry and who?
Barry and who?
Barry who?
Barry and who?
Some guy that does a podcast that nobody watches.
Never heard him. Barry Ferguson's a nice guy, right enough.
Okay, I hear where you're coming from.
He's a nice guy. Yeah, he's good, man. But I've never heard the other guy.
Aye.
Don't mention the war. Aye, okay.
Listen, he only gets about 20,000 more listenership than we get in this show.
Higher.
We'll get an extra 5,000. We'll get an extra 5,000 this week. So we can big handsome Rob on. Know what I mean? Right, Rob, tell us. Take it. We'll go all serious now. Right, take us back. How did you get into commentary?
So I come from up north near Inverness. Invergordon is where I come from. So I started working in a local paper there. I ended up in Aberdeen working as a journalist, as a news reporter. And the local radio station started off up there, North Sound Radio in Aberdeen. I walked in the first day as a reporter. The boss says, "Who likes football?" I put my hand up, and he says, "Right, you're the commentator." So that was it. That was the job interview. And it coincided with Aberdeen having a really good team at that time. Fergie was in charge, and 2 years later they won the European Cup Winners' Cup. So, and I was this just kid reporter, buzzing around Europe, commentating on all these games. And then Aberdeen beat Real Madrid, and it was an incredible time, and it kind of seemed normal for me at that stage. But it's only when I look back now, I think it was absolutely ridiculous that they were doing what they were doing at that stage. But it was an amazing start for me. I hadn't really planned it at all. It just fell on me, and I think a lot of my career has probably gone that way. Stuff just has happened, and I've fallen into it. I'm not the king of planning, as anyone who knows me would tell you. So, things have just kind of happened very fortunately, and I feel lucky.
So, Rob, did you have to change your accent when you
couldn't understand that? What was that?
Touché, man. Touché.
See, like, obviously you're from up Inverness way. You don't seem to have that kind of twang anymore. Did you have to change your accent to get into like the Central Scotland TV kind of thing?
Well, I mean, it's funny. I think whatever accent you have, and you're right. It's a right enough, and all that up in that part of the world. And you do need subtitles, I suppose, in the Central Belt. But I think what happens in broadcasting is that I hate people who change their voices completely. I just think that sounds awful when you sort of adopt a completely different voice for broadcasting or whatever, unless you're an actor, in which case you do it all the time. But I think, to make yourself understood, you probably modify your accent a wee bit. So your point is absolutely spot on, Chris, that it probably, without me knowing it, it did change a bit. I like to think, though, I think some people listen to me, some people in the Highlands listen to me and I hear your twang all the time and stuff. So probably if you've got an ear for it, you notice that the accent hasn't completely gone. I've probably just modified it a bit.
Rob. See how before you commentate on a game, right? What do you write in your notes down? Number 11's played 100 games, blood type, all the rest of it. Do you know all that down?
Inside leg measurements and all that sort of stuff.
Aye, the full bifter.
Aye, no. No, I do. Yeah, I mean, you do prepare. But I think, Grado, what happens is that, like at the start of the season, right now, it's a much more difficult job because clubs get new players in, not so much so because of lockdown and all that sort of stuff. It's not so bad this time around. A lot of teams change half the squad or whatever. So until you've seen the team a few times, you're a bit rusty and you maybe don't recognise and identify people. But after a while, you get to suss out the way they move and all that sort of stuff, and what they look like and all that sort of thing. But what I was going to say was, although I've got a lot of stuff scribbled down, some people who would say it's on the back of a flag packer or something because of my intense preparation. But you want it in your head because you want to be watching the game, and you don't really want to be taking your eye up because it's sod's law that if you're looking down to get a wee start and then you look back up and the ball's in the back of the net, you're sunk at that point. So you have to be watching the game. So you want all the info in your head.
See how it's funny you're saying that when they get new players. How does it go about with pronunciations of some of the players? Because over the years, I remember Archie McPherson, Marcus de Beasley, and it felt as if he'd done it that often he couldn't go back and change it. How do you get the pronunciations? You phone up the club.
You were probably listening to Archie and thinking, "Oh right, he knows what he's talking about. That must be," and that's it. We all do that, And sometimes, like Rangers has just signed a couple of new foreign players, and I was talking about it on the Go Radio football show the other night, and I was giving what I thought was the pronunciation, which will probably prove to be the wrong one. But I think, see if you sound as if you know what you're talking about. It's almost like a con man job. You have, oh right, he must know. And actually I don't have a clue. And probably, you've got a better idea than I have. And then eventually you speak to the guy himself, and he gives you the definitive pronunciation. But other than that, there's a lot of chancing your arm goes on.
Aye, was that only up until the end of last season? McCoy's kept calling Morales.
Oh, listen, it wasn't just one variation. There was about 7 different versions of Morelos that McCoy did, none of which were actually the right one.
Who's your best commentator? Who's your favourite commentator, Rob? Or is there anybody you looked up to when you were growing up, going, that's what I want to be like?
Yeah, there's a guy that I used to listen to when I was young, and he's gone now. He's passed on. Brian Moore. He was on. I don't know if you remember him at all. He was on ITV for a long, long time, and he was just very simple and straightforward. His commentary, he wasn't trying to be too clever. He wasn't throwing in too many stats, and basically he just sounded like he loved the game, and his voice just sort of went up and up, no matter depending on how exciting the game was and all. And I quite like that sort of style of commentator. I quite like. There's Guy Mowbray does Match of the Day on the BBC. Yeah. I quite like him. I think
like Clive Towsley until this week.
Exactly.
Towsley.
Yeah. What's that, Grado?
I've no idea who this Clive Towsley is that he keeps talking about, by the way.
He's none compared to Michael Stewart, don't worry, mate.
Listen, we've got Rory. Rory's presenting our show. Just leave it alone, all right?
Oh, that's funny.
So, what's your favourite game that you've commentated on, Rob?
I was talking about my early days in commentary as a kid when I did that. That sort of, to do a European final and the Scottish team actually won it back in the 80s sort of thing. That was incredible. I was in Seville with Celtic for the UEFA Cup final. I did Scotland-France, Scotland-Brazil in France at the opening game of the World Cup in 1998, the last time we were at a major finals. I did the Scotland-England game more recently, when Lee Griffiths scored those 2 goals and we thought we'd beaten England, and it went from sort of joy to heartbreak in the matter of a couple of minutes when Harry Kane did what Harry Kane does, unfortunately. So, I'm really lucky. Those are just a few off the top of my head. I've been Old Firm. I've done loads of Old Firm games, which have their own sort of amazing sort of atmosphere. So yeah, that's just a few. I'm dead lucky. I just love going to football matches, to be honest. And it's, I've missed it badly, as we all have in the last 4 or 5 months. And it's great to be back.
You must have good emails.
Did you get any offers yourself? Any clubs to host their club TV thing? Like we were getting a bit Clyde Tildesley there, and and Michael Stewart and stuff. Did any clubs contact you? And
yeah, I'm doing Aberdeen. I'm presenting Aberdeen's coverage.
Right.
I don't know how that's going to go down with you, but
well, you'll not be able to get into the stadium because they're shut down now, aren't they? The whole city's shut down.
I think the football club's okay. I think because they do and all that, it's going to be okay. But I had a couple of clubs approached me to front up their coverage, and it's 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 an interesting development, isn't it? And I think it's kind of long overdue that the clubs zapped up their club TV sort of coverage, because I think it's really important. Lots of people ain't going to the games at the moment, so that makes it massive. But even when people are going to games, loads of people watch it, when people abroad and all the rest of it. And I think it kind of sends out a message about how professional you are as a club, as to how good your club TV is. So
100%. Aye.
I think a lot of it's got to do with the rights, though. You get all your overseas fans watching it, which is fair enough. But let's be honest here. We all know folk that watch it illegal streams here. Now, see if there was an option for to pay to watch Celtic games at home, you would, or Rangers games or whatever games, I think they would sell a lot more than they would season tickets. But you would still get your core fans that want to be there in the stadium. But I think it's going to come to a point where, when it comes to renegotiating, the clubs are going to maybe take a step back and go, no, listen, we want the rights to our own games and stuff like that, and we don't want to sell it onto BBC or Sky or anything like that. And then you're cutting out the middleman, the money's coming straight to all the clubs. And people like yourself and all that are always going to be guaranteed a job, because obviously you're a huge name in Scottish football and you're going to be doing the Aberdeen games. But do you not think that in the future, going forward, that's the way that it's going to go?
Yeah, I'm surprised that hasn't happened before now, to be honest, that clubs didn't take the televising side of things much more, into their own domain sort of thing. Because I think it's a big opportunity. It's happened in Europe, hasn't it? It's happened, with the big clubs in Spain who sort of own their own TV rights and do their own thing and all that sort of stuff. So, but as usual, we're not exactly quick off the mark in Scotland. So, I think people are only coming round to that way of thinking now, and it's probably pretty frustrating, because it probably would have been good if Scottish football had taken ownership of the television side of things, because it produces very little money, doesn't it? Really, the TV money is garbage compared to what's happening in England, and that's pretty sad. And it impacts on the clubs, because it means they get less money. The quality of players isn't as good, and you look back to 10, 15 years ago in Scottish football, when TV money was better, players were better, the football was better.
Do you know what? Sometimes I think, Rob, I'm like, what a job you must have in terms of, say you're going to commentate a game in Europe, right? Say the game's a Wednesday. I take it you maybe fly out on a Tuesday, get your probably status with British Airways, because you're always travelling, sit in the lounge, all that, couple of swallies, get there, night in the hotel, next day, do what you want, go see the sights, and then watch football and commentate on it. I think that sounds gallus.
Do you want to come with me? Do you carry my bag?
I'd do that. I'd love that. I'd love to join. Boys, do you think that sounds like a great job?
No, it's great. I mean, I love travelling, and what football's done is, and I guess at the moment it's Fantasy Island, the thought of travelling, but it's been great. It's been one massive perk that I've had. I've gone to places and countries that I would never have gone to without football. Like I went to the World Cup in 2002 in Japan and Korea. I was part of the, Scotland weren't there, but I was part of the BBC Network commentary team. And now I don't think in my lifetime I would ever have gone there to those two countries had it not been for that competition. So it kind of introduces you to places. And like, for instance, I mean, I went to Seville for the Celtic Porto UEFA Cup final 2003. And it was, it was teeming with Celtic fans, and you couldn't see.
How hot was it? How hot was it that day?
But it looked like quite a nice place when I was there. So myself and my wife went back in the October later on. I had a 3 or 4 day break over there, and it was a beautiful place. So it's almost kind of gives you a wee sampler of places, and you think, all right, I wouldn't mind going back there.
But what a day and what a memory! I absolutely loved it, even though we get gubbed. No,
it was special, and funnily enough, I was just on the Go show last night. Rob Douglas was on, and we were speaking about that, and yes, disappointing when Henrik had scored 2 goals to lose the final, But I mean, that run to Seville, the teams that were beaten along the way, some of those amazing games against Blackburn and Liverpool and Stuttgart and Celta Vigo and Boavista and all the rest of it. I mean, that was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Right, cheers for joining us, Rob. Thanks a lot.
That's all we have time for.
No, wait a minute. Now we'll talk about Manchester now.
Go on, we need to watch that. Right, it's becoming a bit scary.
Yes, come on. Yeah, Rob, I want to ask you, right, you've been commentating for all these years. What's the biggest cock-up you've had in a game, like a live game?
Well, I mean, probably quite a lot, because I mean, doing live TV, whether you're presenting or commentating, I mean, the custard pie is just waiting. It's never far away to slap into your face when something goes wrong. One I remember, it was from those early days in Aberdeen local radio. I was commentating on a European game with Aberdeen, and there was a minute's silence beforehand. And the only thing that I'd read in the local paper that could explain it to me was that the Gothenburg goalkeeper's uncle had died, and there was the doubt that he could play in the game at Pittodrie. So I had 60 seconds to think about it during the minute silence, and so I went for that after. As I said, that of course was for the Gothenburg goalkeeper's uncle, blah 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 blah. And my girlfriend at the time was sitting beside me, now my missus, who sort of, when I took my headphones off at the end of the game, she said, you're great at reading the back pages of newspapers, you should maybe read the front pages now and again. Did you not know that the Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme was assassinated on Tuesday? So that went badly. So yeah, I've had a few cock-ups in my time, but I mean, I guess it's that, isn't it? It's how you recover from it. I kept my job, which was a major bonus at the time.
Brilliant, man,
that's brilliant. So just before we go, Rob, have you ever dealt with phone-ins before?
Not really. Not on a regular basis. No.
So do you think
it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think sometimes on these phone-ins, Grado, the callers get kind of dismissed, and they get just shunted. And I can name a radio station that does that. Aye. Well, exactly. And I think what we're happy to do is enjoy the phone call, chat with the caller, throw it back to them. I mean, we've had callers already in the first few days we've done the show, and it just so happens they're phoning in and suddenly they're speaking to Barry Ferguson, or they're speaking to Charlie Mulgrew, or they're speaking to a star football guest, and they're very much part of the show. That it's not just a 5-second phone call. It can be more than that if they want it to be. They can really get involved. So I think that can be quite a big part of the show. And I think also as well, Robert, it would be good to hear you actually talk about the football as well, rather than you asking the questions in the studio. I think it would be good for you to get some stuff off your chest. But I just need to get some broadcasting advice from you, Grado. Will you be able to take me aside at some stage and give me some tips? 100%, mate. Look, today is I'm in the breakfast show every morning, so you're on about 5 o'clock. Get yourself in about 10:30 as soon as I come off the breakfast show. And I'll take you for something to eat, and I'll show you what today, right? A wee rolling sausage and a talk through. Correct. I'm available all next week. We'll sort it out, right?
We'll show you what not to do.
Aye, well, exactly, yeah.
One more thing before you go, Rob.
Yes.
Which Dougie Donnelly doing, Michelle?
He does golf. I think he covers golf, so he'll obviously not be doing much of it at the moment. But he was part of on the Golf Channel, I think it was, touring around Europe at golf events and stuff. So he's not doing anything football wise anymore. I think it's time to get the band back together, and make a sports scene on the go. Aye. Well, tell Dougie I'm asking for him, right? I will do. Next time I see him, I'll give him your best. The Silver Fox and Super Noodlehead.
Thanks very much for coming on the show tonight.
Pleasure. Good to speak to you guys.
Football Daft's big question.
So it's that time of the season where everyone sets up their fantasy football teams and argues with their mates. Remember, you can still join our league on the Fantasy Football Scotland app. We currently have over 1,500 on there, and you can take us all on and prove you know more than we do. Anyway, the best bit about fantasy football is coming up with your team. So this week, we asked, what's the best one you've seen? There's a few belters, isn't there?
There's some crackers on this list as well, man.
Aye.
My favourite's still Toast and Charm. But there's some toppers on this list here.
Aye. Brest, Homage Albion.
Brest, Homage Albion.
There we go.
What about Alan? Borussia Mushroom Flashback.
I like John's Inter Milan.
That's a new one. That's a new one. Andrew's joined it in the
Aye.
roof.
That's quite clever, isn't it?
That is quite good.
What do you mean? That?
Because it's Cedric Itim have just signed and came out
Itim and Kemal Roof. He touched my tip. he touched my tip. That's a belter.
Champagne Super Rovers.
There's a few ones from the Football Daft Twitter. We've got Craig Scasey's Kindergarten Klopp. Rob's went for Breaking Bad, which I thought was pretty decent.
Breaking Bad.
Craig Meikle, Kebab Douglas. We've got PK Blinders, which is the old one from John. Chicken Tikka Mo Salah, John Payne.
That's a classic, man.
Chicken Tikka Mo
And
Salah.
I think this is my favourite, and you missed us, right? I think this is my favourite. Craig has went for Real Madrid Fish. I thought it was very smart, that one.
What's the fish? I don't. I thought it's very smart, that one.
Right, so I'm going to have to explain this joke to you, Grado.
Are you gonna?
Real Madrid.
You're going to have to explain it for me and all, mate.
Oh my God. Real Madrid. So it's surreal humour, and then he's written just fish as a random word in there.
That's shite.
Oh, for fuck's
Don't.
It's now time to try and give away 2 cases of Beer 52. It was a rollover last week as we once again play the Pro Set playoff. All you have to do is guess the player from the 91-92 set of Pro Set cards from the description quicker than either Chris, Grado or Stephen to win. And playing today, it's Rangers supporter Davy Hogg.
Welcome, Davy.
How you doing, David, my man?
Cheers, lads. All the best.
Yeah, I was hoping for me and you to have a good friendship there until John says Rangers supporter Davy Hogg. Oh, I'm hoping my name comes out the bowl now, boyo.
You all firm game, man.
Right, well, we'll find out in a minute. So the rules are really simple. I'm going to read the description of the footballer from the card, and you have to guess who it is by buzzing in when you know the answer. If you do buzz in, however, Davey, and you get it wrong, you're out, and the other person gets to guess who it is. All right, does that make sense?
No worries.
First to 2 wins. All right, but first of all, I need your buzzer. What's your buzzer going to be?
Loudrup is God.
Right. Okay.
I like it. You went for a long buzzer. You don't know the rules of this. My buzzer noise is ha. So you saying Loudrup is God is going to take a lot longer than it takes.
Who would you like to play, Davey?
It's got to be told because it's Coatbridge versus Lark Call. You know what I mean? Might as well.
Get the guns out, boy! Get the guns out. Oh.
Right, okay. Let's do the draw. Names on the hat. Who's coming out here?
I want to see him in tow. Come on, just do it.
Hashtag pray for Grado. However, you're playing against Stephen for the second.
Oh,
again?
I think you should play toe, man. I think it makes it exciting.
Right, okay then, David. Would you rather play Stephen or toe?
I think you'd rather play toe, man.
Let's just go for it. The wee man's gave the fighting talk, so we might as well.
Right, okay, here we go.
Love it, mate.
Here we go. All right.
Love it.
Right,
Love it.
he's ready for your first one. First to 2 wins. Remember that. Okay, what's your?
What yourself, Davey?
ha.
Right, okay. Here we go. First card is out. This person's first club was Celtic, but he made just 24 appearances in 4 seasons before moving to Cambridge United in 1983. After 2 seasons as a regular at the Abbey Stadium, he joined Bristol City, moving to Shrewsbury 2 years later. And his first...
God.
What? Who? Davey?
I think it's Davy Moyes.
It is Davy Moyes. 1 point.
Oh!
Well
Did we not have that on last week, John?
That was on a couple of weeks ago.
There you go. And you were on the show a couple of weeks ago, Chris. You should have got that.
I know.
Thanks, there, toe.
Next player, 1-0 to Davey. Next one's the winner. This player played in all 36 Premier League fixtures for Aberdeen last season, scoring 7 goals. He first saw league action with Airdrie in 1977 after playing football in Iceland and Belgium.
Ha!
Chris.
I've dived in. I'm out.
I will continue reading, Davey.
Loudrup is God. I'm going to be kinky and say Jim Bett.
Jim Bett. 2-0 Whitewash!
Played, man. By the way. Well well played, but what I will say is, I had no fucking idea Jim Bet played in Belgium or Iceland. Neither I did, so fair play to you.
Well, Davey did this, and he's just won 2 crates of beer.
Yeah,
the thing is, he's sitting with a computer in front of him, that's all I'm saying.
Hey, hold on. Fuck all in front of me, wee man.
Fair play, mate. Well
Take
done.
the beating, Chris. Take the beating. There you go.
Always cheated, never defeated. You know that.
Well played, Dave.
The start to 55 begins now, Toe.
Oh.
5 very much, Dave. I appreciate it, mate, honestly. Thank you, my man. Take care. That was good, man.
So there you go. 2-0 to Davey.
Fucking hell, man. You smoked me
What
there.
happened there, mate?
Mate, I
You're
definitely no
talking
fucking
of.
idea Jim Bet played in Belgium and that.
Absolutely annihilated. So there you go. If you want to play next week, get involved. Football Daft Facebook, tweet at Football Daft. Winners have to be over 18, stay in the UK. And remember, Beer 52 is a monthly subscription service for beer. They get it from all around the world, from some of the brilliant small batch breweries. But you can get free beer from them right now. Dead easy. Just hit us up, beer52.com/daft. We'll sort out a bunch of free beers if you just cover for the $4.95 for the postage and packaging. So head there right now, get your beers, beer52.com/daft.
Now let's introduce a man who's made his name at Hibs with over 100 appearances for the club. He also played at Derby, Portsmouth, Leicester, Stoke and Dunfermline. Until recently, he was the manager of Albion Rovers. It's none other than Kevin Harper. How's it going, my man?
I'm all good, mate. You?
Good to see you, mate. Thanks for coming on the podcast. How's the lockdown been and everything else?
I think it's been the same as most everybody else, you know. Get 4 kids, so it's been a wee bit difficult for certainly the younger two. The older two, 20 and 13, 14, sorry, just turned 14. So they've been all good, up in their rooms on their phone as they would do. The younger ones, the wee boy at 5's probably been the hardest. He's wanting to go out and see his pals and go out and play football and stuff. He's not really been allowed to.
Kevin, so who uncovered you? Who gave you your starting fit? Who signed you first?
It was a strange one, mate, to be fair. I grew up in Portsmouth, as probably everybody knows, and I was just out playing with my mate. It was about 10, and he's like, I need to go to football training. And I was like, well, what have I to do? And he's like, I don't know. And I says, is it all right to come along with you? And he says, aye. So I ended up walking from Portsmouth to Site Hill, play for the Celtic North, that used to be at St Stephen's, and that's how I got into it. And then, obviously, I went to sign for West Park for Bishop Briggs, and Alec Miller saw me. I was playing a tournament in Paisley, and his son was playing in the same tournament, and there was a bit of commotion going on the pitch that I was playing. Obviously, I was ripping it up, and he turned round and ended up watching my game, and that's how he asked me to sign for Hibs. Came up to Portsmouth, had a chat with me and my mum, went back down, and his car had been broken in and his stereo had been took.
I'm joking.
Did you know about a time at Hutchie Vale as well?
When I was at Hibs, Alec Miller says I had to play for them, play for Hutchie Vale. But for me, Hutchie Vale, we were winning like 10-0 and stuff like that, so there wasn't really much. I think Alec Miller was just scared because I was coming to the end of my S form, in case any of the teams through here had wanted to snap me up.
When you were at Hibs, Kevin, you were playing with boys like Darren Jackson, Pat McGinley, Keith Wright, Kevin McAllister, and that. Was it a bit of like an education for you, like a football and education?
I think when I went in, there was a lot of hype because there was this kid that was coming through the Hibs ranks, and when I got there, it was an eye opener. But as I say, it was just for me. I remember the first day Alec Miller shouted me over. I was training with the reserves and he shouted me over, and I went in, obviously running across. We were playing that we were training at a rugby pitch at the time, and I remember him shouting us over and running over, really nervous. And then first bit of football we had, first bit of training, I ended up I think I slide had a straight legger with Graham Mitchell, the left back, and I think that was something that had to happen, because then they took it. They went, all right, this kid's for real. But I think learning for the players, the experienced players, you know, Keith Wright was amazing. Even Kevin McAllister, you know, Mickey Weir, Pat McGinley were excellent players. And I think we get probably a disservice done to that team, because if you ask Hibs supporters, they probably not even mention our team. But the attacking that we had in that team, as I say, myself, Tony Rouge was there, Keith Wright, Darren Jackson, Mike O'Neill, Pat McGinley, Mickey Weir.
Great players, man. Great players.
So we were really attacking side. But I think if you look at it and you ask, as I say, if you ask any Hibs fan, they probably wouldn't even mention our team, to be honest.
You mentioned Kevin McAllister there. Now, I noticed that John's desk rose very slightly when you mentioned Kevin McAllister's name there. Did you learn a lot for Kevin McAllister? Because he is a genuine legend of Scottish football, isn't he? And what a player he was.
Yeah.
It must have been brilliant to be able to learn from him, man.
He was top draw crunch. He was quality, real quality on the ball, good crossing. And he's probably my height as well, So it was always good that sometimes I was taller than him, sometimes he was smaller. He was taller than me, so it depended who we wanted to be in the middle. I would stand on my tiptoes, so I was a bit taller than him. He had to go in the middle in the rondos, you know what I mean? So it was all good that way. But Crunchy was fantastic. Him and Mickey Weir, because they played the same sort of position. And I was just fortunate enough that I ended up taking over from they two players that are probably, as you say, Crunchy's a legend football, and Mickey's a legend for Hibs as well.
So it's funny that you say that Hibs fans don't want to remember that team, right? But see that team that you've just mentioned there, that's a Hibs team, I think, because we talk about fitness stickers on this podcast now and again, and that's the team I remember from my fitness sticker. But was that yourself included, by the way? That whole team right there, that's the one I remember.
It's strange that, because as I say, the majority of Hibs fans I don't think would say that we were an attacking side, but when you look at the setup that we had, we had real attacking players in it. Do you know what I mean? And I think one of the seasons we finished third. It was the first time anybody had finished third didn't get into Europe. I think it might have been, not sure who won the league, but obviously Celtic or Rangers, and then it was Motherwell, and then it was us. So when we look at that, and everybody thought Alec Miller was a defensive manager. He wasn't. He was just very tactically aware. He set us up not to get beat, but we had the attacking flair to go and play and do what we wanted. And with players like Keith Wright, Darren Jackson, Mike O'Neill, myself, Pat McGinley and the team, Crunchy and Mickey when they were there. I think you just look at it and you go, that's a real attacking side.
Aye. What was Alec Miller like to work under? Do you have a good relationship with him, Kevin?
Yeah, I thought he was excellent. A lot of the other boys, a lot of the experienced boys, I don't think had much time for him, if I'm honest. But tactically, he was very tactically aware. He was really in depth in things. And as a kid, I always have something, an affiliation with Alec. I've got a lot of time for the guy. He's just a pure football guy. He's 100% football. I saw him when Hibs won the Scottish Cup, and he was like, I just go to games, any games that are on, I just go and watch them. It doesn't matter if it's a Premier League or the second division or juniors. He just loves football, and that's the way he's always been. But for me, he was excellent. He was excellent for me. Really, I really learned a lot from him.
So, Kevin, you became one of the first black players to be capped for Scotland at an international level. Was that a proud moment for you, or did you not even think about it, or was it a big thing for you?
It was a big thing for me. I didn't get a full cap, got under 21 cap, was on the bench for a full international, and that's probably the biggest regret that I have. Right. I think, when you're playing in the Championship, then when I was with Portsmouth, top of the league, playing with players like Paul Merson, Yakubu, Teddy Sheringham, Shaka Hislop, and not even getting a Scotland cap when people that I felt had less ability than me were playing. Because they were playing in the Scottish Premier League is it probably the biggest disappointment for me. I think at that point they didn't think that the Championship was that good.
I remember when you first come through, but they were screaming for you to get put into the Scotland squad because you were like this new, exciting talent that nobody had nobody like myself or anything like had heard of before you came into the Hibs team. And I remember the papers were all going mad asking for you to get put into the Scotland squad, and then you did get put into the 21s, but that must be quite a big regret for the manager as well, not giving you your first full international cap.
I think if I look back in my career, I think I deserved at least one Scotland cap. When I look at some of the players that have got 25 and 15, 25 caps, and at the end of the day, they played in the Premier League. Some of them played for Celtic, some of them played for Rangers, others just played in the Premier League in Scotland. I think the SFA at times didn't venture past, Dumfries. At that point, they just looked at people in the Premier League, and for me to be playing, as I say, playing in the Championship in England, to get in the top of the league, playing week in, week out, and not getting a Scotland cap, even later in my career, is disappointing. But I think at the start of my career, I think I probably deserved a cap. But, at the end of the day, the managers decided different, and that's their choice.
Who was the managers when you were playing in the Championship? Who was the Scotland manager at the time?
Bertie Volks was the Scotland manager at the time. Yeah, he was. And when I broke through, Craig Brown was the manager.
Have you ever spoken to Craig Brown about it? Have you ever came across him and mentioned
it?
No,
I've not spoke to him about it. I've not seen him in honesty. But I think in fairness to Craig Brown, he's the stats wise, he's the best Scotland manager ever. And I think the players that he picked, done us a fantastic service. He's the last manager to take us to a Euro or a World Cup. So you have to take your hat. You have to take your hat off to the guy. And at the end of the day, his decision. I've got no issue with that. That was his decision. But I felt that I probably deserved, as I say, at least a Scottish cap. But that is what it is.
But back to your time at Hibs, Kevin. What when you look back on your time at Hibs, what's your highlight of your time there? Your career highlight at Hibs?
I think I've got a few, if I'm honest. I think making my debut up at St Johnstone was, as a 7-year-old, bench and coming on was fantastic. Because never in my wildest dreams did I think I would be a professional footballer. I loved to play football. I didn't think at 17 I would make my debut in the Premier League. And then the following season scored my first goal in my first start. My first goal at Easter Road was against Dundee United when we won 5-0. And then probably scoring the winner against Rangers, ironically. That sort of took me from, just a known kid into being known right across Scotland, really. It catapulted me like nothing you would believe. And then probably the final one was scoring the winner against Hearts on New Year's Day, after we had, because that was like 2 days after we had get beat 7-0 off Rangers.
That was the coldest day ever, by the way, that game. See that 7-0 game? That was the coldest.
That's not a game that Gaza get booked for booking your air.
Aye. Mate, that was, you're right, it was Baltic, man, I remember that.
The reason Jury scored 4 goals, didn't he? And you're right.
I'm not sure, because I know, all I know was I was a sub that came on at half time at 2-0 and changed the game. We were 2-0 down when I came on, we changed the game.
Good bird, man. What was Edinburgh derbies like, Kevin? What was see when you got there? Did they tell you about the Edinburgh derby, or did you know? Obviously you've supported Fitba, but how serious do they take it? Obviously,
they take it really serious, and I think got to remember we were in a run of not winning any derbies. So my first derby at time, my first ever derby, was at Tynecastle when we broke the hoodoo of 20 odd games of no winning. So I was fortunate enough. The first 3 derbies were wins. We were undefeated in 3, which was a big thing considering we went through that amount of time. But for me, I lived in Glasgow, so the pressure of it through the players through there. But you're sort of a wee bit detached from it in essence. You know how important it is, but you also there's no really any pressure, because I was just a kid. I was only 17, 18 at the time. So for me, it was just another game. But other players that were older and more experienced and had been through, maybe 10 games against Hearts and hadn't won, was big pressure. But you always knew it was pressure. But for me, it was another game. Yeah, you wanted to win over your city rivals, really. And I was fortunate enough to play in a lot of games where we did win, and I scored important goals in them, which is always good.
I hear there's you hear the Old Firm games, and you hear players in the dressing room can basically do the team talk instead of the manager. Was there any Hibs players that would go right, boys, the day this is what it's all about? Any players that stood out that really they took it so seriously?
I think your Pat McGinley's, your John Hughes when he was there, Gordon Hunter, these boys, Willie Miller, were bang on at Darren Jackson as well. Keith Wright was a big one as well. Keith didn't say much, but you certainly heard them at Derby games. But they were the group that really, they had went through a lot, in the sense of that run. So they were the ones that were speaking up, and they were the ones that were probably the most nervous as well, because the majority of them lived in Edinburgh, got it tight from everybody. Whereas for me, went to the game and then I could retreat to Glasgow almost. I wasn't in the heart and soul of it, but it was really, really intense. You just the noise, the atmosphere is incredible.
Love it, man. Would love to score a goal in a derby, man.
I think it'd just be some feeling scoring a goal, even in training.
No, it's when you're derby, that's what you want. You want a local derby. You want to be the hero of a local derby game, and fortunately enough, New Year's Day against your rivals, scoring the winner. I don't think it gets much better for that in a footballing sense. Obviously winning leagues and stuff is fantastic, but scoring the winner in a New Year's Day will never be forgotten.
But you're still 17 at the time, Kev?
I think it was 18 or 19. I think it was.
You could go out for a beer then, at least.
Aye.
So listen, you then moved down to Derby to play in the Premier League. What was it like? What was the difference like going from the Scottish Premier League down to the English Premier League?
The biggest thing that I found was when I was up here, I was really, really quick. I was probably one of the quickest players, up here. When I went down there, I was just quick. And I think that was the biggest thing that I found. I remember my first day and getting into the training ground. I couldn't drive, so I was getting a lift for Pat McGinley, and he used to drive a wee Yugo that used to just to get miles on it. So he used to drive us in, and then I went in the changing room into the car park at Derby, and there's Aston Martins, Ferraris, Audi A8, V12s, all different stuff. Going crazy, and that was the biggest difference. The training ground, we had massage chairs where we just sat before the game, before training. We had 15 minutes on the massage chairs, and then when we went out, they had a 7-a-side pitch that they only used on a Friday. So the biggest thing for me that I noticed was the whole professionalism of it. Mm-hmm. The own training ground, the specialists that were in looking after you, the sports therapist, the sports scientist was just coming in at that time. So it was a whole different concept of training. But going down there, I think for probably the first wee while, I was like, am I good enough to be here? Probably I was away from home, all emotions going through. But after probably the first month, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I definitely deserve to be here. And unfortunately, I didn't get enough game time at that time. But I worked under Jim Smith and Steve McLaren and Steve Round, who's the assistant with Michael Arteta at Arsenal. And they were. I learned so much about them, and I take a lot of that stuff that I learned there into my coaching.
Kev, how far do you think Rory Delap could throw me?
Oh. I don't know. You're a bit heavier than the football, so I don't know as far.
Aye, you're fucking right, yes.
No anymore, graduates. Drop them off me, son. Drop them off me.
Here, Kevin, who was... See, you're talking about the motors, right? See, you're talking about the motors.
Yeah.
Who had the tidiest motor, and did you eventually manage to buy a tidy motor yourself when you were down there?
Lars Bohinen had the F1 Spider.
Oh,
so he had the F1 Spider, so it was unbelievable. When I went down there, I had one of the first Lotus Elise convertibles.
Aye.
So I just got one of them.
Still got it?
Like, no, I've got a bit, mate.
He's got 4 lanes, Grado. He's got a Kia Sportage.
Take the 4 lanes out in the Lotus. Like, you wait here, I'll be back in a minute.
Go journeys to school.
Kevin, tell us about Jim Smith, man. He must have been a character. What was he like?
Jim Smith was brilliant. I was in his office probably every other month just asking why I'm not playing and stuff, but he was great. He was great. He was a man management. He was really old school in the sense that you probably didn't really see him. You saw him on a Monday maybe, and then giving you a wee bit of banter, and then you didn't see him till the Thursday when he came out, and we were doing preparation for the game on the Saturday. then he would come out and you would just hear his voice bellowing across the, because they had still had the baseball ground at the time, because they had moved into Pride Park, so they still had the baseball ground, and you know, you just hear him bellowing, this and that, you know. But banter wise, motivational wise, was excellent, because I remember, no names, I'll no name the player, but I remember my first game there was away to Villa, and in the change room, I'm on the bench, so we come in, it's 0-0 at half time, and he's having a pop at this player, and the player just gets up, takes his top off, and walks into the shower. And he's like, I'm not going out of the second half. And I'm like, what the heck's going on here, man? I'm in the Premier League. I've never ever saw this before. And then Steve McLaren's in the change in the shower saying, right, hurry up, get out, get your stuff on. Gets his stuff on, and then Jim says, right, go out and do better this half. And that was it. You know, so he would give you, but he would also be, you know, as soon as he gave you that was it, done and dusted. But as a guy, obviously, God rest him, he's passed away now. Is unbelievable, man.
He was a character, wasn't he? He was along the same lines as like your Harry Redknapp and all. He's like one of the kind of characters. And you worked under Harry Redknapp as well at Portsmouth. So what was that? Must have been somebody.
Ironically, Jim Smith was his assistant at Portsmouth. Jim Smith was Harry's. So obviously, when Jim came in, Harry took over. Graham Ricks was the manager, and then Harry Milan Mandridge brought Harry in as like the director of football, and we pretty much had a fair idea that he was going to end up becoming the manager. And I've saw Paul Merson say that Harry's probably the best manager he's ever worked with, and I would second that 100%. You know, Harry made you feel as if you were the best player on the planet, you know, and you could go out and you could do whatever you wanted. And, you know, Harry wasn't big on tactics. You know, we had a wee bit when we were in the when we were championship, when we won the championship, we were the best side by a country mile. So if another team had scored 3 goals, you would score 4 goals. That was no problem at all. That was the way that we felt it was 100% going. But Harry, just awareness of football tactically, it was so good. We didn't do a lot of shape, but just tactically aware, he was really, really at it. And the thing about Harry is he builds really, really good teams. You know, and he, you know, our team that he built there was we were mid-table, and then Harry came in. As soon as Harry took over, he kept us in the league mid-table, and then we won the league the next year with a canter. And the players that he brought in, the contacts he had were second to none. But as a man manager, it was fantastic. He was fantastic. I wasn't even in the squad for the first 2 or 3 games, you know, and then ended up playing 40 games. But I think you have to take your hat off to Milan Mandridge as well, because he bankrolled. You know, he brought in these players and Harry's went and said, listen, I need this, and Harry and Milan's went, right, that's fine. You know, and I was fortunate enough, I was only one of probably 3 or 4 players for the previous season that stayed and played, which was great. And to have a play where I played and have a championship medal from Portsmouth getting promoted, you know, and that's the biggest disappointment. You know, you get promoted to the Premier League in England, but you don't get the Scotland manager doesn't feel that you're good enough to get a Scotland cap.
Aye, that is
bizarre.
Easy, man.
Obviously, this will obviously have crossed your mind before with regards to that. Do you think the fact that you're black played any part in that?
I think probably, you know, if I go back on it and I look at some of the things that I've said about the SFA in my early career, that probably went against me. But that was due to getting racism and them sweeping it under the carpet. You know, so is it? Am I going to say I didn't get a Scotland cap because I was black? No, I'm not, because they gave Nigel Quasi a Scotland cap. He was black. You know, just probably the following year, I think. You know, so I would hate to think that was the case. You know, but I think having been outspoken about it was maybe a thing, because if I certainly look at the players when I was playing that got caps, you know, and got 15 to 20 caps. I'm not being big-headed, but I think I was better than most of them. But,
do you know what? See, the fact that you're talking about it, I couldn't name any of them, and that tells you all you need to know. You know what I mean? Like, when you think about it, you definitely were playing at a higher level than most of them, and to a higher standard yourself than most of them. So, you know, it's maybe just the whole stunted. We're in Scotland. We're in this goldfish.
I think that's what it is. I think that's what it was. You know, because I think when I was certainly in the squads, you know, I was in a couple of squads. You know, the players are going, certain players are coming up to me and going, listen, Kevin, I can't believe you're not even in the team. The way that you've been training, you're head and shoulders above majority is here, and you're not even in the squad. So, for me, that's big. Your fellow peers saying that about you is a massive thing, But at the end of the day, it is what it is. I've got no regrets on it. Yeah, I'm disappointed that I didn't get a Scotland cap, but at the end of the day, you can only piss with the cock you've got.
But you do hear that, like, you've heard of, remember, as back a couple of years ago, John Fleck was storming it down south, and he got a cap. But it happens doing again, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think that's the same with him. He's been outspoken as well. Right. He was the great big hype after, because he was Flecky's, cousin or something. But he was at Rangers. He was going to do this, and he's had to go down to England to probably a better league and show his credentials, because we probably didn't really appreciate it up here. And that's the thing. Sometimes I think we don't appreciate what we've got until it's away. It's a wee bit like Charlie Adam as well. He didn't play at Rangers. Had to go down south, and then he's been night and day. And it's MacArthur. They're still doing it just now. So you look at it in that sense. We've had really, really good players. Well, the prime example is Andy Robertson in it. He's a prime example for absolutely everything. Gets thrown out of Celtic because he's too small, goes to Queen's Park, nearly chucking a game, and now he's just laughing at everybody, going, "I've got so much medals that you can't even." I think the league champions, Champions League, world champions, can probably champions everything else. So, so it's, you look at it that way and you go, sometimes we don't see what we've got. I think that's probably. Did you ever come across that, because you were tiny? You were wee compared to a lot of the big ones. Yeah. Scottish football was basically just a big bunch of barbarians fighting at one point, wasn't it? Yeah. So like you come in and you had this speed and you were small, so it gives hope for me and Stephen that eventually that we will get there. I think that's the thing. I think for me, I was a bit bulky. I was broad shoulders and stuff. Although I was small, I was still physically I was pretty big, and I had pace, so I could run away from most people. So that was always a good thing. You know what I mean?
As for me, man, growing up in East End of Glasgow, tiny, but I could run like anybody. Well,
being a black kid growing up in Possil, you had to be able to run.
So, Kevin, tell us about Robert Prosinecki, man. What was he like?
Words will not do the guy justice. I think for me, he was the best player, head and shoulders, that I've ever played with. Played in the same team as. His footwork, his ability on the ball, he's just everything about him. I was quite happy doing his running for him as well. I was quite happy in that team, just giving him the ball and doing his running for him, because you knew when he got the ball, something was going to happen. I think the biggest thing for me was I wasn't good enough to play with him in his prime. I think if in his prime he would be absolutely sensational, and he probably didn't have as much an impact as Paul Merson did at Portsmouth, but hand on heart, being the best player, he was the best player that I've ever played with. He could do things with a ball that it just showed me how the upper reaches of football, how they players are and how they work, and the ability and how they see things was just like head and shoulders above anybody else. Because I remember one game I was running down the line, I was like, Robbie, and he just passed it somewhere else, and he came in at half time and he just went, Kevin, don't shout, I see you, and just done that with his eye, pointed to his eyes like that, I see you. I was like, all right, Robbie, fair dues, I'll not shout you again.
No, but I remember Celtic drew Croatia Zagreb, right, in a Champions League qualifier, and he was playing for them. And that's the first time I ever remember really being absolutely overwhelmed by a player's performance, right? There was a lot of rumours went about, right, that he threw a fag away running out onto the pitch.
Oh, aye, totally, aye. Oh.
Did he used to smoke in the dressing room?
Oh, not in his dressing room. He used to go outside the dressing room and smoke all the time. Aye. Must have 40 fags easy. He's just constant chain smoker.
No wonder he never ran out the centre circle.
No. But as a player, he was head and shoulders above anything that I've ever played with in my career.
Kevin, you had a couple of loan spells.
Yep.
Leicester, Norwich, but then you ended up at Stoke with Tony Pulis. But you had an injury there. How did that affect you?
That was difficult. That was a difficult time, to be fair, when I was at Stoke, because when Tony came and bought me, I knew what I was getting into. He had bought me at Portsmouth. I really liked Tony. Still speak to Tony to this day. And for me, I get injury after injury. I had calf injury, dislocated my shoulder, came back for a dislocated shoulder, had a hernia operation, and it was just really, really difficult to come back with. I think my mindset was not in the right place when I was there, but just purely because of the injuries. And it was difficult. I was training well, but by that time I was training well, but I was playing the reserves and I was given 100% in reserves. But I just sort of knew that I was never going to get back in the team, just because I think the manager couldn't trust that I would last 100%. You know, and that was it. You know, and I've got no issue with that. I totally get that. But that was just a real difficult time for me, mentally and physically.
Did you have a family? Did you have a family in there, Kevin? Or
no, they were up here at the time. Yeah.
So you really were basically down there yourself, or did you move back up here? Or so you're down there, aye?
I was down there, and I used to commute. I used to commute every sort of Tuesday. If we never had a reserve game on a Tuesday, then I would commute up if I was off on the Wednesday. Or sometimes if we were playing maybe up north, I would ask the manager if I could take the car on a Saturday or get somebody to drive the car up to the game and then just head up. And Tony Pulis was great that way. I think he understood where I was at that time. You know, and then he left the club, then came back, and I was buzzing that he had come back, and then he just went a different way. He felt that I wasn't in his plans, and that's when I ended up going. I went on loan to Carlisle and done well there, and then got injured again. So, you know, it was just that day. 3 years at Stoke was a difficult time, and just injury after injury, to be fair.
So then you came back up the road to Dunfermline.
Yep.
Did you go into Europe with them?
Yeah, we did. You did. That was ironically my first ever time in Europe with Dunfermline. I had never been in Europe before. Stephen Kenny signed me. I had options to stay down in England, but they were only like a year's contract, whereas Dunfermline had offered me a 2 year. So I felt security wise it was better. Worked under Stephen Kenny. We had a really good side, but I think we didn't start the best. The first I think first 7 games I don't think we won a game. And we should have, you know. And then it was a mental thing of we're not going to get relegated, but we're not going to win the league. So, you know, I think it was difficult to get into that point. And then the second season, I done my knee. I was over in Spain, and I was just looking out a window and went to turn right and done my knee, and that's how I had to retire. So.
Oh,
Jesus Christ, that's
nasty, man. That's nasty.
So.
But Kevin, then let's talk about your time management at Albion Rovers. Right, you saved them for relegation this season there. So, what made you step away?
They offered me a contract that I felt was a wee bit disrespectful. It wasn't what I was on at the present moment in time. You know, at that moment in time, there was a few things that happened in the season prior, behind the scenes, that I didn't feel that they were 100% honest, in the sense of things that were going to happen, you know, after what I had done the previous season. I wasn't saying that I was untouchable, but I think, you know, what I had done the previous season should have got me more leeway than what it did, in a sense. You know, they were paranoid about the Lowland League teams, but I think if you look at our stats last year after 26 games compared to the previous year, you know, every single one of them is better. We were on 10 points after 26 games. You know, we finished with 24. And we had 24 this season after 26 games. We had scored more goals, we had conceded more, we had conceded less. You know, so for me, I thought we were going in the right direction, you know. But, you know, I chose to step away because I didn't think that they were going in the right direction that I wanted to go in.
Right.
Is that no team you support, though?
I'm a Coatbridge guy myself, Kevin. And, you shut your fucking face, you. sorry, the Wayne's here, and I'm swearing. I apologise.
That's the Wayne there, mate. Come
That's
on.
all right. I think she's sleeping.
Justin.
Apologies.
That's all right.
Right, and when you left the Rovers on social media, there was quite a lot of support for you for the Albion Rovers fan base, and even a local MSP actually come out and says, "What the fuck's going on here?" Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Full
Langley.
McGregor. Oh, sorry again. Jeez.
It's all right, mate. It's all right. Don't worry about it.
Right. So hang me. Sorry, I apologise. Right. So, do you know? See, looking back at it now and what's happened since then with the COVID and all that, your contract might have only been able to offer you a lesser contract after that. Anyway, have you thought about that? Like, or have you had any possible word about maybe the next job or your next role in football?
No, not at the moment, mate. Not at the moment. As I say, things are different. You know, things are different. We just know now that when football's going back, you know, clubs will be under pressure because there's only a 27-game season. You know, there'll be promotion and relegation, I'm pretty sure, this year. You know, but for me, it was my decision. You know, it was my decision. I felt after the stuff that had happened in the season that I probably wouldn't have renewed my contract, even if they had offered me one, which they did, just purely because the trust had gone for me. You know, and for me, if trust is gone, then where do you go with it? You know, you have to have complete and utter trust with the board that you're doing the right thing. You know, and for me, I took the club, made the club more professional, probably saved the club for oblivion. You know, if I'm honest, by staying up that season. You know, but at the end of the day, that's a decision that I made. You know, I wish the club all the best, and I'll certainly go back and I'll watch the games. You know, and there's a lot of good people at the club. You know, and I'm thankful for them giving me the opportunity that I got. You know, because it's well documented. I had applied for 40 plus jobs and get one interview, and that was the Albion Rovers job interview that I got. You know, and there was other clubs that, you know, I had applied for. One get back to me saying, "Oh, we're going with experience," and brought a junior manager in. You know, so for me, it was. I don't know how that's more experience, but at the end of the day, you know, I done my job at Albion Rovers. I done it well. I've saved the club. If that's my last job, then I can look back in it and say, you know what, it was a job well done. Saved a club from oblivion, kept them in the league with the lowest budget. Then it's up to them now. You know where they want to go with it.
How hard is that league to manage, and Kevin?
It's difficult when you've got the budget that we had, you know, because you look at Kelty, you look at Cove Rangers, you know, their two strikers' wage bill is probably our whole team's wage bill in a year. You know, so when you look at it that way, you have to. We were fortunate enough for what we'd done the previous year that we were able to go and get some players that believed in me as a manager and what we had done, and word of mouth spread. You know, and we brought some players in, you know, that were going to enhance the team, which they did. You know, we were a bit unfortunate with injuries. You know, at one time, I remember playing at Cove, we had a left back playing at centre half, a left midfielder playing at left back, a left back playing at right back, and one centre half against the top team. You know, so. In that time, we had about 8 injuries, and that's a time that all the behind the scenes stuff started happening. That the trust was lost in. You know, when we had the injuries. So, you know, at the end of the day, you know, as I say, I'm a realist. You know, could we have done better? Yeah, we could have. Did we do better? Yeah, we did. You know, but at the end of the day, my time was up there. I felt as if I'd done a good job there. You know, and good luck to the next manager that's in.
See, I don't know if I've asked a manager this before, right? And if I did, I can't remember the answer, right? But see, when you're applying to be a manager, how do you do it? Do you send it? Do you find out their address on Google, write a letter? What do you do? Just good at good working within a team.
It comes up. You see it sometimes in the paper. You see it. You get an email saying that this job's up for. You know, send your CV in. You know, you send your CV in, but the majority of times the chairman's probably of the board have got somebody in mind.
Aye, already.
You know, already. So it's difficult. You know, but you know, fortunately enough, Albion Rovers were so far off the bottom, so far at the bottom of the table that you know, there wasn't many big names going in for the job, you know, and I was fortunate enough that, you know, they interviewed me, and that's all I can ask for. When you put your CV into a job, you just want an interview, you know, because at the end of the day, you have to prove to them in that interview that you're the best man for the job. And fortunately enough, they felt that I was the best man for the job, and it worked out that I was the best man for the job. And the publicity they got for having the first black manager in 15 years in Scotland was incredible. You know, Sky Sports came up, you know, the amount of publicity they had in the papers and the TV, you know, but at the end of the day, I still have got to do a job. There was no point in appointing. They didn't appoint me because I was black. They appointed me, you know, because they felt that I was the best manager for the job. And that's what happened.
See how you said you applied for 40 jobs. What was the biggest club you sent your CV to? You got to tell us.
I'll not tell you, but there was teams in the top division in Scotland. You know, not all. It wasn't all managers' jobs. It was under 18 managers. It was under 23s. So you know, there was lots of jobs across the board that I had applied for and got one interview. You know, and I think it's been well documented. You know, I think for me that I'm probably better. I know that I'm better qualified than some of the people that got the jobs. Probably half the people that got the jobs. So
that must stick in your craw right enough, man. It really must. That must be a pain in the arse.
It is. I think it was the.
Sorry. Oh no, I just said arse. Arse is all right.
Arse is all right then, aye.
If it wasn't for my missus, my kids, I wouldn't have kept going. And that's the biggest compliment I can give them, because my missus was like, "Oh, you've got too much to offer," and the kids were like, "Dad, you can't stop there now. You know, you're on a journey that you've got so much to offer. We see you doing stuff with, you know, your coaching stuff. So you have to give it. You have to keep going. You will get something eventually, but it's difficult after 40 knockbacks. You know, just going, yeah, I'm going to go again. But you know, that's the way it is. I just hope it doesn't take me 40 times to get back in, if I do get back in.
So every week here, we do this a 90-second quiz.
Right. Okay.
And we've got some belting names on the list. Honestly, the top of the list is Mark Wilson. Then, funnily enough, we've got Kenny Duker. Mark's on 14, Kenny's on 13.
Yeah.
Barry Ferguson and Owen Coyle on 12. And we need to make a correction, actually, after the football daft VAR was brought out last week. Jonathan Watson, he actually scored 9. And right. I think John told him that he'd scored 10. Am I right?
What? No. He scored 8, but there was, I think one of the question was who plays in the Tyne Tees derby, and of course it was Middlesbrough and Newcastle that Jonathan said, because I was thinking of the Tyne Weir derby, so that is an extra point for Jonathan. So
again, John, what did you do wrong?
I got the question wrong, Grado.
What did you ask? Again, I remember this.
We asked Jonathan who plays in the Tyne Tees derby. He said Newcastle and Middlesbrough, and I said it was wrong because I was getting mixed up with the Tyne Weir derby, which is, of course, Newcastle, Sunderland.
We watch that, John.
I know.
Watch it,
mate. Got to watch it.
What the hell? Anyway, how'd you think your day? Ask you the question.
What you need to do not to be the bottom of the league is get 2 right answers, right? Because we've got David McCracken, he only got 1 right answer, the Falkirk manager.
Okay, if I can beat Cracks, then I'm fine.
Right, so John, we've got 90 seconds on the clock.
We do indeed.
Right, and your time starts now. What 2 teams play in the Super Classico?
Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid.
Name one of the teams left in the Scottish Cup.
Celtic.
What club did Celtic sign keeper Vasilios Barkas from?
Pass.
How many can he pass?
Can he pass? Everton.
How many under 21 caps did you get?
7.
Who did Dundee United play in the first game of the season?
They played St Johnstone.
Livingston turned down a $1 million bid for Lyndon Dykes from which club?
Barnsley.
What musical instrument is in the Hibs badge?
A harp.
Who currently sits top of the Scottish Premier League?
Celtic.
How many goals did you score for Walsall?
4.
Celtic target Stephen Fletcher has left which club?
Sheffield Wednesday.
What is the name of the Cove
Sheffield
Rangers ground?
Cove Rangers, don't know.
How do Man City face in the Champions League this week?
Real Madrid.
What nationality is Hibs midfielder Melker Hellberg?
Norwegian.
Who did you score your Scotland hat-trick against?
Finland.
New Rangers signing Kamar Roof played for which English club?
Leeds.
Dougie the Dunhammer is a mascot of which Scottish club?
Queen of the South.
Hearts Aaron Hickey could be on his way to which German club?
Bayern Munich.
In what year were Hibs formed?
18...
Time!
Oh!
That's not you're allowed to answer.
1882.
Yeah, can I just see we are Wayne on his knee and the Wayne ready to get a bit how good did he do there, man?
I was getting a wee buzz when he was answering them there.
See, after that, we only had one question left. And we never get through all the questions. Never once.
Yeah, right. I hope you've done well, mate, so you can put it in your CV.
Right, we've got the answers. The results are in.
Oof.
And it's pretty good.
That's always good.
Let's go through the wrong answers because there's going to be one that's going to set off here as per usual. Right, so the teams that play in the Super Clasico, obviously the El Clasico is Madrid and the Madrid teams, but the Super Clasico is River Plate and Boca Juniors in Argentina. Barca signed from Celtic from AEK Athens. Hibs midfielder Melker Hallberg is Swedish. And you'll be gutted at this one, Kevin. Hibs were formed in 1875.
Right.
Should have looked at the badge a bit more often, mate.
Done in 80, mate. Done in 80.
You obviously won me a badge kisser.
Nah.
Well, wait a minute, John, because he knew what musical instrument was on the badge, so...
That's true.
That was a good guess, though.
We're going to come back to this one, right? How many goals did you score for Walsall when you were on loan there? I have got written down here 1.
John, you need to stop asking this question.
I know, you fucking...
Wikipedia is letting me down here.
I'm sure I scored. Mind I was twice at Walsall. Loaned twice at Walsall.
Right, okay.
You've got to game it. We've given the
everybody else
we've given the benefit of doubt everyone, so that makes a big difference. That
must take me to the top of the league.
Kevin Harper is our new leader.
Get in there! Buzzing.
I tell you what, I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but I was going through the questions like a dose of a fucking salt cell. Oh, sorry, I'm swearing again.
It's alright, the Wayne's aren't here anymore.
Yeah, and that's brilliant.
Well done, Kevin, mate. Well done.
Well done, mate. That's brilliant.
Cheers, guys.
Well, Trips, that was a good show. What do you think?
Enjoyed it.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought Big Rob MacLean was great. Kevin Harper was brilliant.
It was good. I mean, you've let us down the Legends Lottery in the past, but mate, you've put a big one out the bag here. I'm quite impressed. That was good.
I like getting to know stuff off commentators and all that. I think it's different when we've got somebody that's Scottish football that's not an actual player. It's good hearing the wee. It was good till you asked on the questions and stuff like that, and you as well, Bob, that I've always thought about for years and all the commentators. So it was interesting.
The minute he said he was for Inverness, I was like, no, you're not. That's a different voice. So in you go.
Right, big handsome chap, I know, man.
Right.
Silver four.
It's looking good for his advancing years, as Grado says.
I know he's held me or not, man. I fucking grasped myself in. Anyway, Kevin Harper as well was superb. I thought it was brilliant. You forget that the talent of players that he actually played with.
Aye, definitely the pool of players that he played with throughout his career.
Prosinecki.
I know, that's different gravy. That's
he should have been capped for Scotland. He had no idea.
Prosinecki was Croatian.
Yeah, do you know what the biggest surprise for me in this show was? Paul getting pumped into fucking pro cards, man.
That was superb.
I know. I took my defeat in a poor fashion. I'm going to be honest. I do apologise, Davey. The better man won. However, watch your back.
And before we go, I'm just going to tell you what you're going to do when you sign up to the Patreon. What you're going to get. Bonus content, the full lot, brother.
Oh, brother. Your big brother story too.
Hi. Go on.
Okay, go. Right, he's ready.
Right,
so what happened was I went into the SECC for the first audition, right? And when I
So
got in,
I don't want to cut you off. The wife is going mental at me. I need to get off of here now because I'm going to get my arse kicked. So,
Sorry, Cole, mate. Next week, mate.
I'll see you next week.
yeah, remember, rate, review, subscribe on Apple.
And everything else. Fit the music.
Egg mix.
Audio Frontier.